It's a big class. It shouldn't hurt us. This is what I want to say, though, about this crowd that we have here. One thing we share is we're all creative, and we all want creative lives. That's what we share. What we don't share is what our creative dreams are. So I got a few people in here who are probably going to be animators, right? We have a fairly robust animation department at FIT. We got a few people who want to be graphic designers. To put that in plain English, by the way, graphic design is just about any design that uses ink. Business cards, letters, letterheads, I should say, newspapers, magazines, books, packaging, right? They all use ink, right? So nowadays, if someone says I'm a graphic designer, they're kind of telling you, but I'm not really a web designer. And I don't do video and I don't do animation. I'm not screen-based. So I want to break this down for a second, right? I've got some print-based people in here who want to head into graphic design, packaging or publishing. Let's call it that, packaging and publishing. That's great. You're going to need everything I teach you. This class is a must for you if you want to work in print. Some of you guys are going into multimedia, and multimedia could mean including graphics, but usually what we mean is screen-based. You want to do web design, you want to do video, you want to do animation, maybe gaming even. Things that will involve both movement, sound, reading, all of the above. That's multimedia. Listen, folks, I don't want anyone to panic and think, I want to do both. What are you telling me? I can't do both? Yeah, you can do both. Yeah, you sure can. I do both. When you do both, just to make life easy, you call yourself multimedia. And you might throw in, I don't mean just screens. I'm multi, capital multi media. Okay. So thing is, you're definitely going to want Illustrator for that second section. A lot of animators like to do their drawings in vector programs. They're far easier to edit. If I have a mouth that's really smartly drawn and I want to make the person smile later on, it's going to be a lot easier if it's a vector program like Adobe Illustrator, right? So I have to say, it's a large class, and it's going to be really hard for me to get to know all you guys as individuals. The 3 hours a week that I have, I'm really going to use. What I know about you is probably going to come through your homework. There are 4 projects this semester, but they're big. And so they each take a few weeks to actually complete. And what I'm going to do, today you're going to get a peek at one of them, unless some of you cheated. You might have actually found the link. Liana, did you see the work already? You did. That's not really cheating. That's okay. We're all going to look together, and anyone who wants could look later. It's all on my handout. This is the turbo handout that I give, every one-stop shopping. But I'm going to go week by week when a project happens. This is the first step. It's usually a gentle first step. Foolish people will ignore the first step, thinking, it's too easy. I could skip that. They're going to pay grave prices for doing that because I never give homework that doesn't matter. Do you remember when you were a kid, do you ever have a teacher that told you on Thanksgiving to trace your hand and make it into a turkey? Don't be mad at me, but I hate that teacher. Don't go teaching kids to draw turkeys by tracing their hand. It's like just telling them that they're not artists right from the get-go, All children are artists. We can't really start burying their creative energy that young. Anyway, I'm not giving you any turkey homework. Every homework I give you is designed for you to get better, right? So I really want to be clear. I'm on a mission. By the way, I should have introduced myself, even though there's a name on my little box. Please call me Ira. I prefer Ira. If you prefer Professor, it makes you feel more collegiate, you can call me Professor. But by and large, I prefer first name, and I'm going to call you also by your first name. All right, I'm hoping everybody's here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 25, 24 people. I am missing 3 people. All right, I'm gonna be nice. I'm gonna peek one more time, see if there's an emergency email. Nope. All right, that is that. Okay. One thing about other schools, if I was at another school and 5 or 6 people weren't there, I would think, all right, People sometimes do that. But at FIT, nobody does that. I think most of you know you're really lucky to be here. You're in a world scale art school. All of planet Earth knows about your school, right? And for that reason, we're pretty competitive. You know, I don't like saying that because it feels like I want to bully everybody into, you know, jumping over the highest bar. And that's not exactly where I come from. I am going to ask you to reach for your highest bar, but I don't want you to do it because you're competing with anybody else but yourself, to be honest. The school won't always agree with me, right? So if you're new at this school, it's going to take a deep breath from you to get the hang of it here. We are competing with Parsons School of Design. I taught for years there. Rough, a rough school. And the School of Visual Arts, slightly friendlier school, and very few others, really, in the country, and not a hell of a lot in the world. All right, you know, I think I want to jump in. We're going to take a look at the handout together in a minute. And I've used it to kind of break down the questions you're likely going to have for me. I will answer questions as we move forward. I do want to thank everybody for turning their cameras on. Laura, if you wouldn't mind turning your video camera on. If your camera doesn't work at any point in time, I will not hold it against you, right? But this class is the kind of online class that has not adapted anything unnecessary. We want a community environment in this class as much as possible. And if I look at a bunch of gray boxes, I'm talking to myself. I would just post movies and teach in an absent kind of way. So right now I'm going to ask everyone to keep the cameras on. If there's ever a reason why you need it off, I'm open-minded, you'll let me know. About the microphones, you know, if your space is super quiet and you want to leave it on so you could speak to me spontaneously, you're welcome to do that. Keep your eye on, you don't have to. I'm a little more open about the mics. But, you know, if you hear any feedback, check that it isn't you, you know, and be ready to turn your mic on and off. At any point, though, you're welcome to turn it on. You don't really have to raise your hand. Yes, it is a lot of us. You might have to just go like this just to get my attention if I get overexcited, which I'm usually overexcited. so if you need my attention, though, just shout it out, you know, wave if you have to. Oh, listen, about the chat feature in this thing, I'm really bad at keeping an eye on chat. 25 people, the demonstration, the handout. Avoid chatting me if you have a mic. Only use chat if your mic isn't working, right? And every now and then I'll take a peek to see if anyone chatted me. You are welcome to chat each other with anything supportive. You know, someone's like, well, how much did that cost? And you know, you could do that. Or where did you got that? And you have the link. You could post it to the chat. By all means, you're welcome to discuss things with each other as long as it's in some way related to the class, right? I just want to peek. It's strange that not everyone fits on my screen. That's something about letting extra people in that I didn't expect. All right, we'll see. No one ever drops this class. It's strange. I'm kind of proud of that, actually, because almost every other class there's some kind of change going on, but no one ever leaves this one. I think you'll see why. This stuff is a blast. It's just a blast. All right, I'm going to move over to the handout right now. So I'm going to screen share. All right. All right. So I'm imagining that, by the way, when I screen share, I can't see all of you. So waving and stuff like that isn't going to work too well, right? If you need me, you're going to have to shout out, right? So this is the address that you all already saw, or you wouldn't be here now. And this is the thing you got to make sure you don't lose the link for, right? If you're ever desperate, you need to take my class from your phone or from a tablet. You could hear the lecture that way, but you can't join me in the work, right? So you could tell that you guys are just the Monday section here, and no, you can't switch into Thursday. right? So your Monday, just you got the same handout, so you're sharing a website. We'll come back to the syllabus, but I want to say something very clearly. These that are marked with the class numbers and the dates, those are the ones you want the most, right? The syllabus will give you pretty good outline of my class. But for details, you always want to go to what I call the daily schedule. I'm going to class 1, August 31st right now. Okay, I want to go over a couple things right away. So we're going to lean really hard on these handouts. They're typically not going to go up before sometime Monday, a little bit before your class, right? But often before the class, it'll be a little early. Now, I want you to notice these times on the right. I don't always stick to them. They're there just to give you a rough idea how long things are going to take, but I'm not going to stick to them. You'll notice that there's a little slash mark, and then another time. That's for the other group, right? So you guys only concern yourself with the times on the left side of that. Is everybody clear on that? Okay.
Yeah.
Same goes for the Zoom handouts. I am intending on using the same link, Zoom link, every week for the rest of the semester. So this is going to be the same address over and over, unless something happens technical that makes me have to change it, right? Which basically means you don't care about this one, right? It's a different group. So nobody show up on Thursday thinking, I didn't know it was a Monday, Thursday class. No, it's not. One day a week will be enough. You'll see. All right. So I'm hoping everybody knows for sure that they're in the right class. You know, actually, I hate taking attendance. I really prefer to take screenshots. You know, I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to wait a little bit longer. I'm going to take a screenshot for attendance. We'll be talking about attendance soon enough. I want to move forward, though. And I'm actually on time. Amazing. What do you need for this class? I'm kind of hoping that a lot of you guys read the original announcement that I said. Did a lot of you get the longer announcement that I sent? You can give me these if you got it. All right. So that basically means you knew what you needed for today. And I'm kind of hoping that you got everything you need for today, because I'm going to start teaching today. If you got a late start, you don't have the proper computer just yet, or you don't have Adobe Illustrator, we'll be talking a little bit more about what you can do to catch up, right? Soon enough. All right. So it's got to be Mac or Windows. It's got to be one or the other. Hang on one second. I'm just checking that everything's working over here. Okay. Chromebooks will not work with Adobe Illustrator. So if you're counting on taking this class with a Chromebook, you're going to need to talk to the school and see if they could loan you a better computer, right? Chromebooks don't load software. So that if you're in that situation, again, I would have hoped that you'd read my handout, which was 10 days early, to make sure that everyone had the right equipment. And all is not lost. But I just want to be clear. Those are the only two choices you have. Windows or Mac, and they're both just as good for this stuff. I would say, though, that a computer that's older than 5 years is likely to cause you trouble. You know, you could try it and find out. You know, my computer that I'm on right now is 5 years old, maybe 6 years old, but it's a very pumped up MacBook Pro with the most of everything on it. So I'm going to be able to squeeze a couple extra years out of it. If you're having any tech issues, you could ask me during class, right after class, or you could send me an email, right? But don't delay, right? We'd have to take care of it right away. Okay. So let's go on to this one. Have you already obtained the program? Now, I'm talking about Adobe Illustrator CC 2020, and I'm going to need some immediate feedback on this question, all right? If you already have Adobe CC on the computer, can you go like this? So I'm looking around the room, and that looks like 2 out of 3 people, right? Which is not enough for me to be happy, right? So I want to say a couple things to the other third. I'm completely on your side, right? You're going to have to get control of that program right away, right? And I want to tell you a couple things about it. I honestly do not have the steps for how students go ahead and obtain CC 2020. So I'm going to ask anybody, is anyone clear enough to give those who didn't get the copy? If you turn on your mic and wouldn't mind me asking a couple questions about. Corinne, did you get your copy of Adobe Illustrator through the school, or did you just do it on your own?
Oh, I bought it like forever ago, but I'm pretty sure you could like email maybe like financial aid or something like that, or look on the website itself, and it should give like a step-by-step instruction. I
Got
actually
it. I
do
want
want to
to ask
switch over
somebody else who
soon.
might have just gotten it through the school. Guys, give me a second though. I need to make a small tech change on my computer.
I'll look now. I'm gonna mute myself though, so you don't hear me typing very loudly.
I'm
I got
actually
it.
trying to turn up my mic because it's hard, my speaker, because it's hard to hear you guys out here.
I got it through the school, and you just go to Creative Cloud and you sign in with your FIT email, and then everything is free to download, like Photoshop, Illustrator, all of it.
Okay, hang on 1 second there. Who was it that was just helping me? Can you wave?
No,
Gotcha.
yes,
Micah?
yeah.
Is Micah saying that right? Micah, could you say that one more time?
You just go to creativecloud like .com. You sign in with your FIT email, and everything is free to download.
All right, great.
Yeah.
So folks, what I'm going to ask anybody who has trouble doing that to try to reach out to FIT's tech support. If you're feeling really overwhelmed, email me and I'll get answers for you, right? I got to say something though, that typically I'm not going to be tech support regarding hardware and software, not just because it isn't my job, but because my job requires so many hours as it is. So I'm going to hand it off to people whose job it is. But if you can't find them, you could send me an email and I will advocate on your behalf. But I need for everybody to have that software available and ready to use by next week at the latest, right? At the very, very latest. Don't be shy around me, right? If you're like, oh, I should be better at figuring this out on my own. But if you're completely overwhelmed for any reason, send me an email, right? And then I'll try to get busy on your behalf real quickly. All right, thank you, Mike, and for feedback. I'm going to often ask for feedback from the class. All right, let me get back to the handout. We're going to actually start with software today, but if you give me 1 minute, I'm having a hard time hearing you, and I set this all up in advance, and now I got to see why. I think I've. All right, that should have done it. All right, let's see. See if I'm okay. All right, here we go. So I want to just recap the tech stuff and move on to more of the art stuff, right? The class is fantastic. We go by steps. If you have Illustrator experience, you may be a little bored at the very, very beginning, right? But I don't think anyone in here is going to be bored deep in, because I've been doing this since older than you are. Right? So I could guarantee I'm going to be helping you find stuff you'd be like, wow, I didn't know I could do that also, right? So if you're brand new, you're in the right place, promise, right? If you don't know how you feel about it, all I'm going to ask you to keep is an active and open mind, right? If you already have experience, you kind of know how awesome this is. If you took a lame Illustrator class and the teacher ruined it for you, I want you to give yourself amnesia. Forget it all. Let's start over. All right. Okay. So what are our goals here? You know, Illustrator, like it sounds, is of course a favorite amongst genuine illustrators, people who want to do that for a living. And I do hope that I've got a lot of you here who are illustrators, but not just that. So I just want to say a quick word to those of you who are heading into an illustration majors. Can I ask you guys this dumb question? Because I should know the answer to this, but I don't. Are you guys already declared majors, or has that not happened yet? So you all already have.
I'm pretty sure we're all declared. Yeah.
Most. Yeah. I'm just out of curiosity. Have any of you gone into illustration? No illustration people? Wow.
Thank you, Sean. Do I count?
Yeah.
I do. I've done digital illustration since I was 12, but
really?
I'm not going into it as my major.
At FIT?
I am a communications design major, but I've been doing digital illustration for a long time.
You know, I got to say something. That all counts. You know, and listen, one of the things that's unfair about the question is a lot of you are the kind of artists that don't really want to choose one thing, and you're being told you have to. I'm going to be a relief for you because I call myself multimedia just because I do whatever kind of art I want to do. And it's now that there's a title, it's not considered a bad thing anymore. I call myself multimedia. But really, your choice of a major at this point is a great idea, whatever major you chose, because you'll have a little while to concentrate, use one art form as a vehicle. You know, for example, if we changed the world on you and you all had to be painting majors right now, and you took one whole year that was just painting, everything to do with painting, right? The next year you chose game design and your best friend chose photography. Would that have been time wasted? No way on earth would that be time wasted. That art form would just make you so sensitive to so many things that if you never touched paint again, you would still be using that experience for the rest of your life. So whatever your major is now, don't feel like it's a jail cell. You know, if you're lucky and you happen to get into the major exactly what you wanted and you always wanted it, I congratulate you on your good luck. You're still going to change your mind almost surely within 5 years or 10 years or 20 or 30 or 40, because I hope you're all going to be making art your whole life. I went to school, by the way, as a cartoonist, and I still love cartoons, and I've learned so much from those years. Oh my God, even though I'm not sure I qualify. I do a lot of animation now, so I guess that overlaps with cartooning. In its own way. But I moved into illustration from there, hence teaching this class. Then I spent maybe 15, 20 years painting around the clock, doing nothing but painting. Oh yeah, and playing very noisy music. And since then I've written a book and made a movie, and I really have no idea what else I intend to do down the road. I'm not saying I'm great at all these things, right? But I'm good enough to do them. And as long as they have soul, that's good enough, right? I think my computer's hanging up on you guys for a second there. I'm still here, right? All right, good. On my end, it sort of froze for a sec. All right. So listen, I want to encourage your personal interests. You know what I mean? Whatever they are that are creative outside of the major you chose, outside of my class. But while you're here, take advantage of how fate aligned. You wound up somehow at this school, at this moment, online, right, pandemic and everything, with this teacher and this subject. You know, the masters you've heard of in any field never wasted a minute of their life. If they were waiting for the train, they were dreaming of the next piece. If they had to take a class that sucked, they were finding what was valuable in that class and somehow leveraging that one thing. Do not waste a second of your life, surely not in my class, and I'm going to make sure to deliver. I want to take up. So yeah, creativity is going to be really urgent in my class. I'm not going to want anyone in here to be making art based on any art that you've seen anywhere else. I had a student plagiarize art right in my class and got caught. And frankly, that in most schools, you're expelled, in most art schools, immediately, or you're kicked out for 1 year. Don't do that. And frankly, I saved her, just to see if we could turn this terrible moral error into a tremendous advantage. And we did. We converted that energy into something positive. But frankly, if I'm not sure my decisions would have been advocated by others, you put it that way. So originality is absolutely required. And one way to maintain that is if you're looking at work to be inspired by, put it away. Put it away a half an hour before you start working. You know, saturate in it. Soak yourself in all those great artists' work and soak yourself in it and then leave it. And then see what comes out. Because if you digest your influences, they're going to come out as you. And that's the way artists, real artists behave. All right. Originality, creativity, technology we talked about. So listen, what do people do with Illustrator outside of illustration? So let me just say a few things. First off, let's start at the beginning. What about illustration? Well, I designed greeting cards, mostly in Illustrator. It was a fun job I really liked. Great thing about designing greeting cards is you could do it in your pajamas because you don't go anywhere. You do it at home. which is pretty great. Some of them were done in Photoshop. None of mine were hand-drawn. Some of the others were. So I was the art director, though. And we like doing things in Illustrator in that greeting card company. Why? Well, when you're in Illustrator, you could change sizes as often as you want, and the print is always perfect. Can't do that in Photoshop. Vector programs allow you to change sizes so that I could take a greeting card and make it into a poster and then into a billboard, which is wonderful. The changes are also very quick in Illustrator, so that's another thing. Logos. All logos should be done in Illustrator. If you've already done logos and you've done them outside of Illustrator, oops, don't do that again, because you don't know how big the logo is going to be needed. You know, I made a logo strangely for Combs, Sean Combs, who used to be called Sean Puffy Combs years ago. And I frankly didn't know what I was doing. And I gave him a logo that couldn't be expanded. And then I realized later what the mistake was. Oh, well. Hey, wait a second. All right, never mind. I was going to ask you something political about Combs, but I don't want to get involved with politics. We need a break. All right. All packages are often made. Yes. It's like, let's face it, there's so many distractions that this class is going to be a safe haven for your creative side. You know, we could deal with epidemics and crazy political players on other days. All right. Packages. The coffee canister, the toothpaste tube, the shampoo bottle, Illustrator, right? Illustrator. In fact, almost everything you see that's visually printed, that's one page, is an Illustrator. If it's more than one page, it's probably an InDesign. Because InDesign is better for books and magazines. So it's better for that kind of publishing. Illustrator is better for anything that's one page. It doesn't have to be one page, but that's what it's best at. Photoshop's okay at this stuff too, but again, it has the limitations that I mentioned earlier about sizing and somewhat inferior typography. What else? Animators. Animators like Illustrator too, for all the same reasons. If you're an animator, sometimes you want to zoom, and since you don't really have a camera, you're just taking the drawing and making the drawing get larger. So it's helpful to have a kind of drawing that allows you to do that. Again, people go into animation, you can hand draw, you can Photoshop. I'm just saying, it's one possibility. Web designers could use it for buttons, logos, icons, and typically do. If I'm saying to you, okay, we're doing a big website, I need an icon for astrology, you're gonna come up, we're gonna be doing some icons this semester, but let's say I'm saying the stock market, what kind of graphic can you draw for me that says stock market? You know, is it gonna be some kind of, line on a grid? What about the weather? You know, are we gonna make an icon of an umbrella? Or is that negative? An umbrella with the sun underneath it, maybe? I don't know. So icons, all of this Illustrator stuff, full-blown illustration, all kinds of artwork, even fine art, and most commercial things. All right. I want to talk to you a little bit about your grades, so I'm up to this right here. So I'm really uptight about attendance, you know, and I've experimented at other schools with lighter attendance requirements, and I've experimented in all kinds of ways. So if anybody expects an issue with attendance, you should send me an email and explain yourself, you know, what your situation is, and not because I'm going to cast judgment or otherwise, just so I can be honest with you about whether your situation is going to fit a success model for this class. I may be able to cut leeway for the right reasons, provided some elements are in place. But by and large, there's 15 classes, right? I would say unless there's a disaster, but that might not even affect us because here we are in the middle of a disaster. Unless there's a double disaster, unless there's a pandemic, oh, that won't be a problem. 15 classes. So I got 45 hours with you. Today I'm going to talk, we're going to do at least an hour of work together. The other classes I'm not going to talk nearly as much, maybe a 15-minute lecture most of the time, and you're going to join me. You're going to open up Illustrator right on your computer, and you're going to work with me. Anybody have any questions so far? It'd be great if
I do. You go first.
somebody,
Oh,
Rebecca.
yeah. I currently do my artwork on my iPad with my Apple Pencil, and I don't really have a drawing tablet right now.
Right, we're not using drawing tablets, so you're okay with that.
Okay.
But we are going to be using Adobe Illustrator, which you can't open on your tablet. So you have choices. Did you say an iPad?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really don't know how to get the iPad to help. You're going to either use a mouse or anything else that you could connect to your computer.
Okay.
So listen, to be fair yeah, please.
I use a drawing tablet that is connected to my computer. It's like a second monitor that I can draw on, and I've been using drawing tablets for like ever. So if you want
What
like a
brand are you using
recommendation,
now?
I'm using Hawaiian, which is much cheaper than Wacom, and I could probably like, because I'm using my computer. This is
Yeah,
my tablet. It's very
Mhm.
big, but I've been using them for a while, and I have like a billion others that I've used,
Listen,
so I
guys, I
could like
want to
help
say
you.
something both to
Yeah.
Rebecca and Corinne and anyone else who's interested in this subject. So
Mhm.
I've used Adobe Illustrator for 22 years, coming on 23 years.
Mhm.
Most of the time I have used my finger on my touchpad
Mhm.
and a mouse. I currently have an XP pen, which is very much like the tablet that Corinne showed. They're about $200 roughly, and they work rather well with Illustrator and other programs, the XP pen. But I have to tell you, I'm so used to using the mouse and the touchpad that I only take the XP pen out for certain kinds of artwork. So I want to say something to everybody in here. I want to skip over something. This might sound premature, but the pen tool. So Illustrator is a huge program with many tools. And there's enough room in it for everybody in here to find a variety of ways to work that are closest to the way you already work. So for example, Rebecca, let's say you like drawing with a pencil. Maybe you got a sketchy kind of style. You might not like the touchpad so much or a mouse. There are tools in Illustrator that will work well with that style with a drawing tablet, kind of drawing tablet. There's no doubt about it. But what I would like for everybody to do is keep their minds open to all the tools I'm going to show you. Don't choose early. That's a terrible mistake. You really want to try to learn them all. Now, the pen tool is the #1 most used tool in Adobe Illustrator. It's also the hardest tool to teach yourself how to use. A lot of people who say they don't like Illustrator, what they're really saying is, I don't like the pen tool. And that's because they took a bad class or they didn't take a class. And they never learned to make friends with the pen tool. Why do I bring it up right now? The pen tool does not benefit from a drawing tablet in any way. It goes from anchor to anchor, from vector to vector, right? So that there's really no drawing in between the lines. I'll show you how you use it to make perfect curves. So anyone who likes this idea of like industrial perfection, well, you look at an icon, there's never a nervous line, if you like that kind of perfection, that's very much Illustrator, and it's very much the pen tool. If I'm going to draw freehand, I'll break out my tablet because I do have a little bit more fun on the tablet. But I'm going to focus a lot on the pen tool this semester because it's that powerful. Everyone who hires you is going to want you to be a master of it. And I don't want anyone to be lazy and just use the tools that are more like tools you already know. You'll thank me for it, right? So I just want to back up. That particular tool does not benefit from a tablet in any way. Other tools might. What you could all do is just wait, see how the class goes. If you're feeling the need for more equipment, like any other artist, then you're going to figure out how to find it, how to, get the money together and buy it. But honestly, I really have taught this for years without special tools. Just the computer and the program is all that's essential. Your own personal workflow, of course, is another story, right? I hope that helps, relieve people equipment-wise, right? Any other questions? Don't be shy, please. I like questions.
Yeah, so you were talking about grades a minute ago, so I was wondering how we can view those.
Where are you? Can you wave at me? Oh, there you are. About grades. You're going to view the grades on Blackboard. right? And I activated Blackboard today, but I got to say, in my class currently, the only purpose for Blackboard is the grades. You know, I don't post anything there but announcements. Most of you got 2 announcements from me because I post them on Blackboard and I use a feature that also emails it to you. So I will post announcements on Blackboard, but I will always also send them to your email simultaneously. Other than that, you won't see the first thing on Blackboard till week 5 or week 6. The first project is due week 4, which I will be introducing today. It's due week 4, and the grades take a week or 2 to go up. So it'll be easy though at that time. Like I said, there'll be 4 projects listed. Oh yeah, is there going to be a quiz? I don't think I'm giving any quizzes or anything. So the 4 projects are going to be chunky. You want high grades, but mostly you want some deep satisfaction out of all 4 projects. That and your attendance equals your grade. So let me put it another way. Everyone has a B right now, currently, all right? Which is not good enough. It's okay, you know, but it's not really good enough for creative people, right? So how do you get the grade up? You rock on the homework. And really, originality is what I'm after, and attention to what the project actually is. Look, I want to be really frank with you about something. Your tour guide here is half fine artist and half commercial artist. My fine art side is completely wild. You're always welcome to check me out on Instagram. Not now, sometime. Just Ira Epstein on Instagram, you'll find me. And I do crazy artwork. That's nothing to do with money or fame or anything, right? And I support you if you also have that in your life. But the graphic side, the commercial side, my commercial side is very commercial. It pays the bills so I could do the other stuff, right? So I got to admit, I go right for it. What does the client really need? What do they really want? And that's what I'm going to try to deliver, right? So this class is a commercial art class, you know, let's face it. I mean, really, typically in a fine art program, you're not going to really take, probably not take Adobe Illustrator. Your generation is going to change that because really, it never really mattered what the tool was at any point in time. But at least for this moment, that's the way we kind of see it, right? So yeah, 4 homeworks, they'll all be graded on Blackboard. Any other questions so far?
I actually have a second question.
Please. Ask.
So you were talking in weeks, like week 4, week 12, whatever.
Right.
Are there specific dates that go with that too? Like, so we know exactly when to submit the assignments?
Well, those are good questions. Everything on my handout will always have a date, right? So as soon as we get a little momentum, there'll always be the week it's due, what stage of it is due, you know. One thing I haven't done, which I like to, but I just didn't, is check out our holiday schedule. Because I know their holidays are going to mess us all up. And I really need to look ahead. So I usually have like at least week's notice I could tell you all about. So when I say, I should say class 4, not week 4, right? If I say something's due class 4 and there's a holiday before then, it's still my class 4 that it's due. But yeah, I will always give you dates. You know, one thing a lot of you guys, somebody sent me an email, it was an unusual one. Thank you for being so clear and organized. Whoever of you sent that to me, thank you for letting me know. Because that is my mission. I want to save as much of your energy for your creative time as possible. I really don't want you scrambling. Where did Ira say to get this? And this other thing was somewhere else. It's like, no, that's never going to happen. You know, it's always going to be on that one handout. It's going to link to everything you need. You ever lost, close everything? Go to iraworks.com/FIT, find that day, and you'll reorient yourself. Any other questions? I appreciate the questions because after a while, I feel like lonely. All right. And let me get back to that. That helps me stay on point. Listen, folks, I have to say something honest about breaks. I'm going to try to integrate breaks into my class. It's a little weird in Zoom. You know, in the classroom, I look around and when I see people glazed over, you know, a few people get that kind of like look, I usually call a 20-minute break. You know, it's a 3-hour class, so that's in my world, that's not that long, to be honest with you. I've done up to 6-hour classes, so it's medium length class. So maybe we probably will take like 15 minutes where people go stretch their legs, get coffee, whatever, right? And if we're going to do that, we'll be doing it pretty soon today. Right now, I just want to move forward a little bit because I want to mention a few things quickly. You know what? No, I think I'm going to do this a little differently. All right, there's something that I skipped on the handout because I'm actually going to start the hands-on part where you join me in just 2-3 minutes, right? I do want to say something, and a perk of taking the class online. On my handout over here underneath attendance, it says our YouTube playlist. So like currently the YouTube playlist is empty. Right, so there's nothing here to look at just yet because I took out everything from last semester. Right. But what I would like to happen is I'm intending to upload the class every Monday. You know, it's slow right now because Zoom has to cook the video, and it's very slow because they didn't expect half of planet Earth to be on Zoom at the same time. And then when I upload it to YouTube, it takes just as long on YouTube, so it's really slow. That's why I can't give you a time. And with the class ending at 6, I'm probably going to pass out at 1 minute after 6, in which case your class won't be uploaded till Tuesday. But I'll let you know next week what's likely. But what that basically means, if you get deadly sick, or your internet just goes down, or you just could not get the equipment you needed for today, and you're like, oh no, I'm going to be behind. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. You get your equipment together, or you get yourself together and watch the video. Skip around. If I'm telling a long, boring story, you fast forward. You know, you find the hot spot. You could even mark down the seconds. People do that in YouTube. This is the part I want to keep rewatching. This part was hard, right? So the link that's on today's handout, I'm going to keep. This is going to be our private playlist. I've not yet decided whether I'm going to do one just for your section and another one for the other section. You guys are taking very similar material. So that's cool. You know, the only thing I'm going to miss when we all go back to the physical classroom is you come to my class on a bad day and you miss everything. And everybody has a bad day. Now it doesn't really matter a hell of a lot. You have one crummy day, you do your best, and you just watch it later. So again, that's linked from the handout right here. All right, so folks, this is what I'd like you to do. If you already obtained Illustrator, I'm going to ask you to open it now, right? I'm going to create a letter size vertical document, right? Letter size, standard 8.5 by 11, letter size vertical document in about a minute. I want to say to anybody in here who doesn't have Illustrator yet, I would like you to send me an email right after class just to let me know that you have a slowdown and what caused it. Is it you don't have the right computer right now? Is it you don't have the software yet, right? Just so that I know, right? Because it helps for me to know if something got in your way, right? And then we're going to just have to take care of that as quickly as possible, right? So if you have it, please open it now. So I want to say something to everybody in here who may not have ever used an Adobe product before. Adobe rules the commercial arts completely. Now that the entire culture knows what Photoshop is, people have the idea of the role of the computer in art, and Adobe is king of the hill for sure. They own Photoshop, which has no serious competition. They own Illustrator, which frankly also doesn't really have any serious. They're good programs out there. They're just not largely used. So they also don't have competition there. They use Adobe Premiere for video, which does have competition, but it's in the big 3 or 4. Adobe Animate, which I love. It's a 2D animation program. That is all part of the Adobe umbrella. And Adobe has maybe 20, 30 programs out there. But about 10 of them, the 10 biggest, are part of the Creative Cloud suite. So Adobe owns lots of programs, but they also sell them to you in this bundle called the Creative Cloud suite. Most FIT types And, you know, going into commercial art, I'm not talking about the painting department, but all the other departments have the Adobe Creative Cloud suite. Most of you guys are going to need it at some point in time. This is, I would say, the same at School of Visual Arts and Parsons and Cooper Union, right? Because we're all using the same programs. Do you need them all in my class? Not necessarily. We're going to, 95% of this class is just Adobe Illustrator. So there's that. All right, I just want to say about getting it, there's more than one way once it's on your computer. If you look at my computer, I have a bunch of links down on the dock. And if you were in the school lab, you would see this link down here. And if you have it down there, you already moved it down there, or it did it automatically, you could just click this one to open up Adobe Illustrator. Another way to get at it, if you don't have it on your dock at the bottom of the screen, is to look at the top of your screen where you might see, can you guys see the top of my screen right now?
Yeah.
So it's got this thing that looks a bit like a keychain. It's supposed to be 2 letter C's for Creative Cloud. So that's the Creative Cloud link. And if you click that, it shows you everything in the cloud that could be updated. Looks like I have a lot of updating to do. I updated Illustrator this morning. So it also lets you open whatever it is that you've loaded. So that was again from this feature up here. And you could just click the red button anytime you want to close it. Last but not least, you could always search your own computer for Adobe Illustrator. And that's another way you could find it. So I just click this little magnifying glass. So I'm going to come down to the bottom of the screen and launch it. It's a little weird, since we're all on different machines, take a big leap of faith. You know, one thing that I've been at FIT, by the way, 3 years, I think, at this stage, maybe 4, I don't know. And I learned quickly that most students at this school don't need me to hold their hand and don't want me to hold their hand. That when you don't know stuff, you know how to look it up. So I'm going to be helpful till I figure out how fluent you guys are. In Illustrator itself, though, I'm going to be rather detailed. All right. How are you all so far? Okay?
Yeah.
Got one person? Yeah, you're okay, Mike? Even though I saw you yawning, man. I saw you. That's okay. I'm just teasing anyway. All right, it looks like everybody's here. Let me just see if I missed anyone. All right, no one looks agonized, so that's a good start. All right, then. All right, so if you're in Illustrator, you're probably looking at the same window that I am. If you're not looking at this particular window, you could always go in Illustrator to File, Menu, New to get pretty much the same window out. I do want to say something, though. If you're using the menus up top, don't accidentally click out of the program because those are different menus. I just clicked into Chrome right now, so all I could do is browser stuff. I'm going to have to get my way back to Illustrator. Always to make sure that I'm in the correct menu. All right, so I'm asking for a letter size document. And if you look on the right side over here, it's giving me that measurement in points. But I have to tell you something, we will talk about points when we do typography. It's a type of measurement that's mostly for letters. I'd be more interested in you moving this little menu here to inches. So it's the width, hang on a second here, mine's backwards. I want the width to be 8.5 inches and the height to be 11 inches. By the way, I had clicked this guy by mistake. This is the landscape guy, and it turns the page over. This is called the portrait, and it moves it upright. So today it won't matter if you got that slightly wrong, but I'm going to ask you to just okay it. Okay, now, folks, I want to tell you something that's a little bit awkward. For me to see the software properly, I could only see a couple of your faces, right? So that basically means if you need me, you're going to have to turn the mic on at some point and say, whoa, what was that? Or whatever happened. And that's okay, right? We're going to be patient with each other. Folks, if you support each other, the class is going to gain momentum, right? Right? If you don't, the class will not gain momentum. So even if I have to stop to help someone for 5 minutes or more, every now and then that's going to be required. I have to tell you, though, I am very proud of this class. I have produced more Illustrator users in this city than nearly anybody that I know. And in fact, the last school that I recently left had told me, half our students get hired for Illustrator stuff at that particular school. They said, how come like they don't like Photoshop? And I was like, whoa. I'm sure that was me that caused that situation. So, all right. All right, I'd like for everybody to take a look at the toolbar on the left. Now, your toolbar may look a little bit differently than mine, right? But I do believe we're all going to find this particular tool called the rectangle tool. Can you please click it? Now, when you click that tool, I'd like you to notice at the bottom of the toolbar are two boxes. One is currently white, and it's a whole box. And the one underneath it that looks like a picture frame is black. The white one is called the fill color, and the one behind it is the stroke color. I want you to just bring your mouse, your touchpad, your tablet, your cursor onto the screen and just press and drag a rectangle. I'd like you to press and drag a few kind of randomly just to see what it feels like. And I'm hoping that you're noticing a few things about it. The program is very fast. By default, it offers you guides that helps you line up with things that you've already done, which is incredible. I don't have a grid on or anything, and I'm making myself a very elaborate grid-based design just with the rectangle tool. Now, is that tool friendly? Was it easy? Okay. So like, let's face it, you know, you're gonna do the same thing in Photoshop. You're gonna be jumping through hoops. You're either gonna be making a marquee, which is made to select stuff and then figure out how to give it colors, or you're gonna be using a vector layer, which is really awkward. You could only use one color on it, and the whole thing is really rather messy. So you do that kind of thing in Photoshop when you have to, but not usually otherwise. This program makes that kind of thing easy. I wanna switch up though and say a couple things about these two boxes. I want you to keep your eye on the two boxes that I pointed out at the bottom of the toolbar. I want you to tap X on your keyboard. Whoops. Oh, wait a second here. I just want to check something out. There we go. My computer bugged out for a minute, but it's working now. X on your keyboard should switch these two boxes. Now, why? I want to show you why. Okay. Before we use that feature, I want you to switch up and get the black arrow. So at the top of the toolbar are actually at least 5 different selection tools. Some of them are hidden. The black arrow is the main one, and we're going to hit a few of them very, very hard. The black one's the selection tool, though. So I'd like you to take the black arrow, choose a rectangle. You see the corners show up. Those corners are the anchor points. I'm not going to call them vectors going forward, but that's what they are, right? Artists usually call them anchor points. So when you see the anchor points, you know you've got the object selected. So I'd like you to select one, go back to the toolbar, and what we're gonna do is work with color. So I guess before we use this stuff on the toolbar, we better get some colors out. Can everybody join me? Go up to where the menus are. I'd like you to go to the window menu. Notice the window menu is in alphabetical order. There are around 70 windows available here. I want you to go to the one called swatches. Window menu swatches. Now here's the way that it works. You select an object that you want to work with color. Once it's selected, you look at the toolbar, right over here. And if you want to change the stroke, you use your X key to bring the stroke in front, and you choose a different stroke. If you want to change the fill, you use the X key to bring the fill color in front, and you choose a different fill. Now, if that worked or not, well, let's say it worked. I'd like you to make sure you're still in the black arrow, change the colors of another box. Now, the idea is to do it consciously. The black arrow is the main selection tool, but the conscious choice is which are you actually coloring, the outline, the stroke, or the fill? So you want to see which one's in front, they overlap. So if you want the fill, this one's overlapping, I don't need the X key. I'll just go ahead and I'll pick my color. If I want to change the stroke, I do have to bring the stroke box in front, and then I could choose a color for the stroke. I want to add something to that because there's one thing that's just not really very satisfying, right? Which is you can't really see the stroke. It doesn't really make you want to change the color. It's so skinny that it really has no personality at all, right? So let's just up the stroke weight while we're at it. So I want to point out something about stroke weights. I got a question for you. What I want you to take a peek at with me is called the Properties palette. Now on my screen, it's bundled. I got my swatches out and I already see properties. Now, if your screen's like mine, in this case, please click on over to Properties. If you cannot find the Properties palette, no big deal. Just go to the window menu. It's in alphabetical order, as I mentioned, and go down to Properties. So I could put it away, or I could get it right from the window menu. The only reason I'm going there right now is I wanted to use this feature right here, stroke weight. So if you've noticed, the green stroke that I just made is now really, really big. There's more than one way to change the stroke weight. I'm choosing to use the Properties palette right now because it does many other useful things, right? But I'm really just focusing on the stroke weight. What I'd like for everybody to do is select a third rectangle, change the fill color, the stroke color, and the stroke weight.
Can I ask a quick question?
Of course, ask.
So my screen is very different from yours. I'm not sure if it's because I'm on a Windows computer, but I was able to find properties, and once I'm in it, my properties is very different from yours, and I can't find anything about the stroke or fill or opacity.
All right, I got a few possible answers for you, right? One thing I'd like to show everybody right now, we'll take a detour because I bet there are other people are having similar issues, so let's just conquer it at once. So I'm on a laptop, and it's a fairly large laptop, and the programs that we use have different workspaces, they're called. And you could choose workspace sometimes because you're a kind of artist that only uses these tools, or you could choose it because of the size of your screen. So let's see what we've got available under workspaces. So I'm going to go to the window menu in Illustrator, and toward the top you see workspace. Now what we've got here is a custom workspace which I made for myself, which I'm glad you asked that question because this is likely to confuse people. I want to think for a minute, do I want essentials? I think I'm going to go with essentials. If you'd like to join me, go to the window menu, to workspace, and choose essentials. Now, before I say any more about it, Liana, did that help at all?
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, it does look more like my screen, and I was under Essentials too, but I still can't see like the fill, stroke, or opacity.
So the only thing that, this is what we want. I want to show you something else. So everybody have a look at this. Look, guys, I want to tell you something about the program. It is a very friendly program. There's no doubt that if you apply yourself, you're going to be very confident in this program by the end of the semester, even halfway through the semester. But it's large, really large. So there's so many variations on themes. I want to show you something that you know, it will prove useful and possibly important right now. I'm going to drag my properties palette out to show you something. So I just pulled it off. And I could put it back. I just click on the name. It's like a tab. And I could drop it into a group like that, or I could pull it out. Now, if it's double-clicked, it's going to fold up. Some of them will actually fold into 3 or 4 different sizes. And I thought that that this one might have just folded partially and hidden the feature she wanted, but I could see that's not a possibility. So I'm going to put it right back. Liana, how is your version new? Your version of Illustrator, is it brand new or is it old?
No, it's brand new. I got it this semester.
I see. Okay. Let's think, why else would your properties palette not have this feature?
I could send a screenshot of my screen to maybe help. If that would be helpful.
Well, I don't think that's the issue. She's got
No.
the right palette out, but the features aren't showing. So, you know, Liana, I'll tell you, this is what I'd like to suggest, and to anyone else who can't find stroke. We don't need the other features from the properties palette for quite some time. So if you want to change stroke weight, there's a palette devoted to it. So let's take a quick look at it. Let's go to the window menu, go down to stroke. I was avoiding having too many palettes out, you know, but, you know, we might need it. Window menu, stroke. put this out of the way here. So here's the stroke palette, and here's where you could change the weight. So this can be dragged around if you like. So you could click on any object you want, either change the stroke weight from here on the properties palette, or from the stroke palette. And the good news for everybody in the room is all the palettes are under the window menu. You just need to know their names. Properties palette versus stroke. That ought to do. Will that work for everybody? All right. So listen, folks, even though that seems easy, I want to say a couple quick things. The fastest Illustrator users are often the most creative because they're not taking 10 minutes to do a 1-minute thing. So I will be sharing shortcuts with you so that you could stay creative. If I taught painting, I would make everyone keep the palette close to the canvas, not across the room, so that you don't make a color and walk 15 steps and change your mind. Right? We want boom, boom. We want to react. So I vote for the X key approach to switch the fill box and the stroke box. There are other ways. I want to move on to something far more elaborate, right? So I want to show you 1 or 2 quick things, and then I want to get to something kind of deep and useful. Okay. I'd like for everyone to make sure that they're in the black arrow. All right. You've already discovered that you could click on anything to change its color, but you could also click on something to just delete it. Please delete one of your shapes. The black arrow is also used for relocating. Take a shape and put it somewhere else. The thing that's interesting about the black arrow, I just got to see something about this. So this version of the program is a little bit different than it used to be. I made a recent change. Do I want to keep this? Yeah, I'm just going to keep it. You know, guys, there is something going on with the black arrow. I want to give you a second here. The Adobe CC 2020 is obviously not very old, and yet they've upgraded it. The black arrow typically rotates and also scales, but I could see in this version, which literally is just one version over what I had this morning, isn't doing it. So I just want to check one quick thing. And I'll make a quick decision whether I want to take that further or not. You know, I'm going to just check this out at my own time. Let me just take a note. Oh, you know what? I think I have a quick hunch. Oh, okay. Guys, can everyone join me on something? I want to make a change on your computer. Okay. Notice when I click a box now, I'm getting new handles and obvious mark that says I could rotate. If you'd like those same features, and you do, could you go up to your View menu? And what you're looking for is Show Bounding Box. If you just loaded the program, it looks like by default, it's hidden. So View menu, so mine is hiding now, and I can't get the cool features that I'm dependent on. So I went to the View menu, and I chose Show Bounding Box. Everybody found it? This is too cool, this feature, because like, let's say you drew the perfect head. It's just that it's not fitting on the body you already drew. The head's way too big. You know, you don't want a Charlie Brown head, right? So you'd have to select the whole head and scale it down. So the black arrow not only selects stuff and move stuff, but it will also let you scale. How is everyone, all right? Guys, I do want to warn everybody about something. Today is the first day, so it's going to be a little bit jumpy. I noticed some flaw that I just made. It occurs to me that a lot of you might do the same. I want to show you something. We're going to have to come back to this topic. I need for you to just look at my screen for a minute. Right up here, you're not seeing anything surprising. I select an object, nothing surprising. If I accidentally double click, I really want to warn you about double clicking in Illustrator. If I double click, something new showed up. Now I want you to double click something on your screen so you can see it on your screen. This is object drawing mode, sometimes called symbol editing mode. And what it means is everything else is temporarily locked. It's a way of isolating. In fact, most people call it isolation mode. So if you double click, you've kind of left the canvas and you isolated the object. I'd like to do some great tricks with this feature on another day. But for right now, it's going to cause you trouble. So if you do double click anything, it's a good idea to notice it, come up here, and click where it says, has this little arrow beside it to go back, all the way back till you don't see it. This way you can see all of the art at once, and that's where we want to stay right now. So all I'm saying is if you accidentally double click, you'll see this stuff. You know, come up here, you could click back to layer 1, but you really want to go all the way back, so that little arrow is helpful. Okay, I still haven't gotten to the fun stuff yet, right? But we're going to take this, some of this stuff a little further. I want to complete what I need to say about the black arrow. The black arrow is super important because it selects, lets you change color, lets you change location, lets you change size. That's big. Lets you change rotation, all with one tool. It's the magic tool. It's like your hammer could suddenly become a screwdriver and a wrench. That's the hammer I want, you know? It doesn't exist yet. So this black arrow is really important. You turned on your bounding box, right, which makes it full power, right? So we didn't have to know about that. It will be on next time you get to your computer, so you're fine. I want to talk to you about selecting multiple objects. So could everybody select one of your objects? Now, if you want to select 3, because you want to change their colors at once and other features, hold down Shift, click another one, click another one. What I'd like for you to do is give it a new stroke color. Now, before you can do that, first you clicked 1, you held down Shift until you were done. You got 3 now. Then you come back to the toolbar. If I ask you to change the stroke color, you have to look here first. If the stroke isn't in front, you're just going to use the X key and bring it to the front. All right, and then you got to go find your colors. So my swatches have disappeared on me. I'm just going to go back to the window menu and get my swatches out again. So you can change the color. You could change the stroke weight. While I'm talking, I'd like for you to change its size and its rotation. So basically, I want you to change its colors, the stroke, and the fill now. I want you to make it bigger, and I want you to rotate it. So I've changed the stroke. So I'm going to bring the fill box to the front, and I'm going to change the fill. Oops, here we go. I'm going to change the fill. I'm going to make it bigger. And to rotate, you don't click the corner, you come just outside of a handle. Just outside, you'll see this curvy cursor, and then you could rotate it. One of the things that's going to happen to you is you'll get to know your way around your own computer. When we have time, I want to show you more ways you can arrange your favorite palettes so they're not going all over the place. You know, really get comfortable. But today I want to cover a little bit of the main tools. Was it easy to multiple select shapes?
I'm trying to select like all the shapes and change the stroke and it's not doing anything.
Okay, so let's take a look. First off, there's more than one way to select multiple shapes, but the way I'm recommending is first you just click one with the black arrow. You want to make sure it is the black arrow. Once you've selected one, you add Shift and keep the Shift key down, and that's the same on a Mac as it is on Windows. If you keep Shift down, you click the next one and the next one. Then, if you want to change the stroke weight, you go either right to the Properties palette or to the Stroke palette. Either one is fine. And you could choose a weight from the large arrow, or you could use the small arrows. Did that help?
I'm trying to do it.
Do the objects look selected? Are you seeing like, are you seeing?
They're selected, but they're not. Okay, now it changed color. It wasn't doing it before, but they were selected. I don't know why it wasn't doing it before.
You know, I'm not saying this is what it is, but every computer every now and then takes like a 1-minute nap. I don't know what's up with that. Do you know when you're talking to someone in the middle of the sentence, you totally daydreamed and then you decide
Yeah.
whether you're going to fake it or not? You can decide whether you should be like, yeah, I hope there are no questions. The computer does that. So it could be that.
All right,
You know,
thank
actually,
you.
we're asking a lot from these computers because the RAM is working on your Zoom, you know, right now, as well as Illustrator. So we're really taking them for a ride. Okay. I want to mention about changing your mind if you selected too many objects and you want to back up, right? So I'm going to just demonstrate that. So to click off is the same as deselecting. You got the black arrow. If you click on empty space, nothing's selected. You could do no damage in this program unless something is selected. So every now and then you just click off. So you got the black arrow. Now I want to ask you something. I'd like for you to join me. Click one, hold down Shift, and select a few more, however many you like. Now typically you'd make some kind of change. You might just be moving them. You might be, you know, scaling them down, right? But let's say you decided you want to do another move, but you want to leave one of them out. So I happen to have 4 objects right now. If I want to leave one out, believe it or not, I hold down Shift again, and I click the one I don't want. Now I just have the other 3. So the cool thing about Shift is it lets you go back and forth. I'm like, oh, I want this one and this one. So just to prove to you that's working, I'm going to make them all black, right? And then I'm like, oh, I changed my mind about these 2. So I hold down Shift, I'll click it again. So what's the moral of the story? Shift is cool, right? Shift lets you select a bunch of things, and then you change your mind, you could back up. This program is going to involve more objects than you're emotionally ready for. Because let's think about this. If I'm going to make a face, the world's simplest face, I still have 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, and a head. Right, so I got at least 5 things going on there, right there, right? And then as soon as I add a pupil to the eyes, 2 pupils, 2 irises, forget all the hairs on a head. I don't really want to go there to all the hairs on a head, right? They're all separate things you need to select if you're going to move that head around. So we're going to learn a lot of ways to manage multiple shapes, and we just got started with the black arrow and the Shift key. Now I've got to tell you something though. I want to take a quick look at my own handout because the tool I want to show you most, I just want to make sure I'm not rushing it. So I'm going to take a quick peek at my own handout. Let's see. So we're doing a little bit of shape tool stuff, mostly sticking with the rectangle for a while, selecting, multiple selecting, moving, scaling, rotating. Oh, I didn't mention option drag copying. So I think I want to show you a little bit of that before we go further. What I'd like for you to do is select all. I want to ask you guys a question. Does anybody know a shortcut from another program that means select all? Can you just shout it out? Nobody is a shortcut user? All right. Command A.
Oh,
I know some of you knew it, just didn't reach for the mic fast enough. That's all right. Command A on a Mac or Control A on Windows, right? So that will select everything. Command A, there's everything, right? Control A on Windows. You could press delete now. A quick word about that. You might want to keep your own list of the best shortcuts. What I'll do when I share shortcuts with you is I'll tell you if they're universal or not. Command A is universal. That means it'll work in Microsoft Word to select the whole book report. It'll work in Photoshop to select the whole layer. So it selects all in a very similar way regardless of the program you're in. So I'm on a Mac. I'm going to be speaking Mac. If you're on Windows right now, just translate. When I say command, you're going to use control. All right. I want to show you something though. So at one point I needed a flock of birds, and it was enough work drawing one bird. So what I chose to do was option drag copies of the bird until I had a whole flock, and then go back and change some colors and change some of the sizes and tweak the individual birds. But it was a hell of a lot faster than drawing them all. So I'd like you to get that rectangle tool and make yourself a rectangle. And then I'd like you to get the black arrow. Now you already know that the black arrow is going to move it. But what I'd like you to try is this. Mac people, I want you to hold down Option. Windows people, I want you to hold down Alt. They're the same key with different names. So on the Mac, you need Option. On Windows, you need Alt. So hold it down. You'll notice you get a double cursor now. Press and drag and look what you did. So this is pretty interesting. So you can get exact copies anytime you want. Did it work? So you hold down Option, you keep it down, or Alt, until you're done copying. You always let go of the mouse first. If there are keys involved, let go of the mouse first. What I'd like you to do is copy all those shapes you just made at once. So you have to select them all before you Option drag. I'm not going to do it. You're going to do it. You got two choices how you do it. You can switch to the, you got the black arrow, so you could do the shift clicking approach, or you could just do Command A or Control A. So either one's just as good in this case. So I've got one. I'm going to hold down Shift, click the others. Now, if I hold down Option, look what I can do. So there's a lot of very complex things I could do rather simply if we learn how to think in Illustrator. I want to say something to you guys as a small detour. My hope in the class is that you get 75, 80% of what I teach. Because I teach a lot, you don't need to get all 100%. You're going to let go of some things you don't like anyway, and you're going to acquire some things I don't include. But one thing I want to share with you is you do have to learn how to think in Illustrator. I'm going to diverge for a minute and tell a very short story. I have an illustration degree. I have a couple of degrees because I'm old, but one of the early ones was an illustration degree, right? Before digital. So when I went to take a digital illustration class, the teacher was really excited. They were like, you're going to rock. You're going to be amazing. And you know what? I was the worst person in the room. I was easily the worst. It was bizarre. I had done more illustration than anyone in the room, and I was the worst in Illustrator. Why? Because I was stubbornly insistent on drawing the way I was used to drawing. And I got to be honest, you're all way too young to look at things that way. The oldest one in the room, which is me, is too young to look at it that way. You can't just, I draw that way. That's just the way it is. No, no, that was just one stop on the road. So we're going to learn how to think in Illustrator. I'm going to make a point in a couple of minutes about what I mean by that. But the Option key is part of it. Making duplicates, which you can't do with a pencil or a paintbrush. All right. All right. I'd like for you to select all and delete this. So click inside if necessary in Illustrator. Command A is the fastest way now, and press delete. I want to switch subjects to something that you're going to need to be able to draw in the program, which is stacking order. And I'd like for you all to give me extra attention. Now, a kid who's good at drawing sits down to draw a face, and usually they're going to start with an eye. The average kid starts with an eye, right? And then they draw the eye next to it. And that's not just children. It could be full-grown adult talented artists. But usually when a person grows through years of making art, they start with the shape of the head, right? Unless there's the whole body, they might actually draw the whole body and the head in one big line. Isolate the head then and work their way. The features are going to come last. You could bet that eyelashes are going to become last. So they're working from large to small. I'm making that argument that mature artists work from large to small. That's my argument. Now the thing is though, if you're drawing on paper, it doesn't really matter, right? What you draw first. But I'm going to show you a situation where it will matter. So I'm going to ask you to join me on this. All right, could everyone make sure you have a blank page in front of you? I want to switch tools for a minute. I'd like you, once you've got a blank page, so you may need to Command A or Control A, press delete. I'd like you to go to the toolbar, and what I'm looking for is this tool called the Ellipse Tool. Now the weird thing about the toolbar is it comes in different shapes. So yours might not look the same as mine. If it does look like mine, you'll notice some of the tools have a little tiny arrow underneath them, which means those can be pressed. I have to press the rectangle tool in my case to get this tool, which is the Ellipse tool. Just want to, you could also click this double arrow to change the shape of it. So I'm looking for this though. So if you got the rectangle out, you probably have to press it. Guys, I keep checking up on you because in the classroom, I walk around, you know, I'm just glancing at your screens, making sure you're okay. I'm famous for going over to people and say, how you doing? And everybody knows what I mean, you know, which is a little harder here in a way. All right, you all found the oval tool, right? Could everybody pick a fill and a stroke color and make yourself a head? It's a little cartoon type head. So there's colors here and I could draw with them. Or if I like, I could switch colors now. So yeah, I could switch to different colors at any point that I want. What I want is a fairly large oval. Now, while you're working, I'm going to say things. If you don't like the colors you chose, change them now. The great thing about this program is you could change the colors before you make a shape or after. As long as the object's selected, that's the only object you're working on. Now, if you don't like the particular oval, switch to the black arrow. Because the black arrow, as you might remember, we turned on the bounding box. So the bounding box is this weird box. It's easier to see now, since it's a circle that we have a shape. Everything that you put a bounding box around shares this box, which lets you scale and rotate. Now here's where the trouble's going to start. I'd like for you to get that oval tool again, or the ellipse tool, and I want you to make an eye. Actually, there's not going to be any trouble just yet. Let me just think for a second. How can I convince you of the value of this? You know what? I'm going to skip my very clever. I'm trying to be clever and it's failing. So I'm going to be direct instead. All right. Could you guys actually take that eye? I want to show you something. And bring it over the edge of the face. I want to show you something. This will be very clear. It does have to be over the edge. This program draws. All right, I know what I wanted to do. Take it back, everybody. Can you delete both these shapes? Sorry, your teacher had half the summer off, so I'm a little slow. I'll make it up to you. Let's draw kid style. Draw the eyes first. Eye, eye. Now you're going to see what the problem is. After you draw the eyes, in fact, if you want, you could even draw a little shocked-looking face like this guy. Now, when you try to put the oval over it, this is where things go wrong. Here I go. All right. I'm imagining everybody sees what the problem is. Here's the lowdown. Illustrator draws from the back to the front. So that kid who draws eyes first would lose everything. You have to think of what's furthest back, and then you work in front of it. So if you're going to make a building with windows, you make the building first, then the windows, you know. And if the windows are going to have crossbars, then the crossbars, and you work your way back to front. But the truth of it is, the program's friendly and it lets you change your mind. So let's see what we can do. All right, can you make sure that the head, the largest shape, is currently selected? And if it's not, switch to the black arrow and select it. All right, we're going to need the bracket keys that show up next to the letter P. So I'm going to hold down Command and tap the left bracket. So hang on a second here. My program doesn't like me switching into Zoom, which I keep doing. Now, I want to repeat how I just did that. I am changing the stacking order. It's like taking a pancake and moving it lower down in the stack. Lower, 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 up, up, up. To move something backwards, select it. Keep Command down or Control if you're on Windows. Keep it down. Find the left bracket key. It's right next to the letter P. Command left bracket means go back one step. Now, Illustrator takes count. So if you've got 6 objects, it's going to go back one at a time. So I have to go through them all to get behind those features. So Command left bracket, my computer, I'm juggling programs, it's complaining about it. So command right bracket brings it forward. Here's command left bracket. Once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. Clearly I could do command right bracket to come forward. I want to be sure that this is working for you, is it? And you'd all tell me, right? Don't be shy, because we're all in the same situation. All right, so that is critical. I don't see a way to be happy in this program because the only other way is from the menus, which are painfully slow. You know, painfully, you're gonna have 100 objects sometimes on one layer. You wanna move something to the back, you don't wanna go to the menu for each one 100 times. It's gonna have to be with the shortcut. So for that reason, I'm gonna share with you a turbocharged, ultra-fast version of the same shortcut. Okay, if I wanted to move this all the way to the back, not one at a time, like this, a second here. Like if that's too slow, what I'm gonna do is Command Shift left bracket means go to the bottom. Command Shift right bracket means bring it to the top. So sometimes you go one at a time, but sometimes you know you want the extreme. And so you just add Shift. Command Shift right bracket, Command Shift left bracket. It's exactly the same on Mac as it is on Windows. These are the kind of things one has to take notes. All right, I want to get to, oh, I got unplugged. Hold on a second here. I want to switch to my personal favorite tool. And I want to be very clear about this tool. It's called the Direct Selection tool. And I'd like to say something to everybody in the room. This program is going to be fun once it speeds up the path from your imagination to the page, right? We really like it when your imagination comes to life early, and we complain a lot when your imagination is taking a long time to emerge. Some people don't like acrylic paint because it dries too fast. You know, for example, everybody's got some relationship. So I want to find ways where this program becomes yours. Now, when you ask the average Illustrator user, what's the most important tool? They usually say the pen tool, which I mentioned earlier. I disagree. I love the pen tool. And I'll show you some of my own work that has used the pen tool. But it's not my favorite tool. My favorite tool is the white arrow. Now, I want to tell you why. The white arrow is the tool that will teach you how Illustrator thinks. Illustrator is a vector program, and the white arrow can control vectors. So I want to teach you now how you use it, and we're going to do a very specific exercise together to get the hang of it. All right. Could everybody select all and delete what you have? So again, select all, delete it. And because I need these two shapes specifically, you could pick your own colors at this stage, but I need a rectangle that's going to take a little less than half the page. And then I'm going to press my rectangle. Remember, they share that slot. And I'm going to get my ellipse, and I'm going to make myself a circle that takes about the other half of the page. Now, here's the thing. The black arrow did some cool tricks. You know, squeeze them and made them larger, move them, change scale, rotates. But it can't change the actual shape. I need for you to switch to this tool here, the white arrow. Now, I want to point out the white arrow shares a slot with 2 other selection tools that I don't want you to use for a while because they're not going to really help enough. This one's going to help a lot. Anytime you want to alter a shape, this is the tool. So, I'd like you to take that arrow and I want you to click off your object so nothing's selected. I want to start from scratch. So you got 2 shapes, nothing selected, and you got your white arrow lined up. I'd like you to bring the white arrow over it, and what I'm hoping is that it's showing you stuff when you drag over it. Now I have to say something nerdy because we're not in the school's lab, we're all at home. The idea is it should be showing you a thin blue line that's right dead center of your stroke. If you get to the corners, it actually says anchor, shows you a big white box. Now, if you're not seeing any kind of information like mine, that means you have your smart guides turned off. So I'd like to show everybody this. View menu, smart guides. We're going to leave this on. So if yours is not checked, check it now. In the future, you might find them annoying, and we'll talk about turning them on and off. But for now, it's best to keep them on. We'll learn the most. So if it's on, you got your wide arrow. I want you to go over a corner of the rectangle and click it. And then press and drag that corner. So I want to make a point about thinking in Illustrator. Any Star Trek nerds in here? I'm a big Star Trek nerd. If you're a Star Trek person, you appreciate what I just drew. Anyway, you can reshape any shape if you know about the wide arrow. Now, it's easy on straight lines, and it's hard on curves. So let's spend a little while on the straight lines. And here are the rules, everybody. First, all right, guys, I'm going to need a lot of concentration on this one because, look, folks, everything, I'm going to get some very deep water. The way we swim in my class is we leave the kiddie pool really fast, and we're going up to our knees. We're up to our waists within 2 or 3 weeks, and then we're out there. By week 6, 7, we're like, scuba territory, right? This tool, though, is going to make all those steps possible. That's why I'm starting with it now. Right? So, okay. Now, here's the first mistake people make with the wide arrow. If you click inside of an object, right, you could only change its color and move it around, but you can't change the anchors. If you ever accidentally do that, no worries. Just go back to an anchor. Not these weird little circles, avoid those, right? But the corners themselves. Click a corner, and then you can move that corner alone. I want to repeat that. If you click inside the object, you can't move the corners. But then, no problem, click the corner you want. Now I'm going to zoom in because I want to show you something. The trick with the wide arrow is the corner that you clicked on should be blue, and the others should be white. The blue one is the one that you can move. To move a white one, you click it once, and you can move that one too. Hey, it looks like most of the class's cameras went off at once. Is that happening to anybody else or just me? Just me. Everything froze. Huh. Do you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Most of the class froze on my end. Is anybody else having that problem?
No.
No? It's just on my end, it looks like a really weird science fiction movie. Like everyone but me froze.
Oh.
All right, Joe. Just in case anybody else froze, I want to just go over this last bit. You see, the way Illustrator thinks is you transform shapes, you don't erase. So in Illustrator, you typically don't use the eraser at all, right? If something is really awful, you just delete it. But if it's even in the ballpark, you transform it. And the main transformation tool is the wide arrow, and its real name is the Direct Selection Tool. It's a bad name, but it directly selects anchors, and that's its real claim to fame. So what you want to know is that you have the power to move the anchors around. Now I want to try something else with you. And let's get some of the terms together. So I'm going to take a stop for a minute. I'm using the wide arrow just to help me make a point. Okay. Drawings are made of objects. The term object is common in Illustrator. Some people say it's an object-oriented program. So a head is made of multiple objects. Now this rectangle is one object. Okay. The object is made of anchors and paths. Anchors and paths. Now I'm going to use both those terms a lot. You already know what an anchor is because you've been moving them around. This is a path. Watch this. So you could actually move a path around like so. Now if you click inside the object, you can't move the path. Don't worry. Just click one anchor, any anchor, and all the paths come back to life, and you could move them together. My computer is really giving me a hard time, but I don't want to go inside where the connection is better. Were you all able to move the anchors?
Can you do the path thing again?
Okay, great. I'm going to do the path thing again because in a couple minutes we're going to make a cube, right? So we got to get through this one part of the demonstration together before we can try this next one. Okay. Now, if an object's not selected, you either click an anchor first or you click inside it first. Now, here are the rules though. If your goal is to change its shape, you always have to click an anchor. If all the anchors are blue, you cannot change the shape. So right now I'm in that situation where they're all blue. So I could click any anchor, and now I'm free to move either anchors or paths. The question was about the path. So I don't have to go to this one or this one. I can go on the opposite side. You click right on the path and drag it. Now, if it's not working for you, I want to tell you what the most likely errors are. I have a very thick stroke. It's like 20 points. The path is smack in the middle of it. And I'm going to prove it by changing its color. So bear with me for a moment. Do you see how my path is smack in the middle of that stroke? So I don't click on the outside. I click right on the path. Then I could move the path. If it all turns blue, you can't move the path anymore. So the easiest solution is click one of the anchors. It knows, oh, you're talking about shapes, I get it. And then you can come back and just move any path you want. Did that help?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. So guys, I want to clear the screen and try something much harder, all right? But you're all going to like this because we haven't really drawn anything. So I want to draw a simple building together. Do I really want to do that? Let me just think. It's 5 o'clock. Yeah, we could do it. Let's do it. All right, clear your screen. Let's click inside, clear the screen. We haven't gotten to the oval yet. We'll come back to that. Folks, we're going to make a building. And what I'd like for you to do is get your rectangle tool. And I want a fairly tall shape for like a, you know, a skyscraper. Now we'll be able to change the colors as often as we want, but I think for this exercise, I don't want a stroke at all. So how do you get rid of the stroke if you already have one? Now in this program, it has its own way of getting rid of the stroke. What you do is bring the stroke box to the front. So you made a new shape, right? Tall rectangle. Then check that the stroke box is in the front. Again, you look at the toolbar for that. Now what we're looking for is a mark called color of none. And it exists in several places. Right here, that's color of none. But it's also on the swatches palette, color of none. So as soon as you tell a stroke to be color of none, it's just gone. Now, why am I asking you to do this? We're going to make a complex object that looks three-dimensional. And to achieve the three-dimensional look, it's going to be a little easier if we could find our edges. All right. Could everyone switch to the white arrow? Now you notice my white arrow has blue anchors in all four corners, but what I want to do is move this path up. So I'm going to have to click an anchor first. Remember, you can't change a shape if all of its anchors are selected. So if one is blue, you're fine. Then what I want you to do is this. I want you to go to the path, which is easier to find now, and raise it up. Now, why? Well, I want to be looking up at a skyscraper. You know, if I'm making a lunchbox, I'm probably going to want to show you the top. So I would have brought it down to change the perspective. All right, maybe we'll do that also. But right now, I want it up in the air. We're not flying, we're on the ground. All right. Does everybody have the first shape? Wow, everybody keeps freezing. I am very tempted to go inside. Will that help? I can't. Maybe you could see me, but I can't see you. Everybody's just like frozen in place right now. So I don't know if this is working or not. Guys, give me a second. You could see me? I think I just want to finish this one thing and then we'll take a tiny break. And on that break, I'll also master my internet connection. All right. All right, once I've got this shape like so, I'm going to want to copy it. And I could use the white arrow or the black arrow. Now, you might remember that Option let you drag copies. And Alt on Windows did the same thing. So you're going to hold down Option or Alt, and look what I'm going to do. I'm holding it down, Option or Alt. I press and drag to make my copy, but I'm not going to let go of anything. I'm going to get them right up next to each other like that. And then I'm going to let go of the mouse or the touchpad or whatever I need to do. Now I'm going to do this twice, right? Because the internet's acting wild, but I'm going to give it a shot now and then I'll just do it all over again. So if you missed that last step, I clicked on the object. This time I want the whole thing, so I didn't click an edge or an anchor. I clicked right inside of it. I held down Option, which let me make copies. We tried that earlier. But what I really want to do is get them back to back before I let go. So you let go of the mouse first, then the keys. Oh, that was weird. I got disconnected and it reconnected me, but everybody looks better now. I really like online learning, online teaching, but I don't like that stuff. I like the rest of this stuff. Okay, did you guys make the copy yet? So let me run through this. Folks, just watch it. I'm not going to do it step by step because I'm boring people a little bit.
I can't see your screen anymore.
Oh, you can't see my screen? Oh, really? Okay, let me, there we go. You see me now?
Yeah, I
You
can
guys
see it now.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
All right, I'm moving. Hang on a second here. Give me a minute. All right, folks. We're going to get disconnected. Nobody go anywhere, all right? I'm moving this because it's interrupting the class. It'll take me about 3 minutes tops. I'm actually in class. The internet is so weird. Did you really? You just got home? Guys, can you hang on a minute? We're going to have to take a pause for a second. You're not in class? So you don't need the top floor? All right? Oh, I see. All right. All right, I'll use it for now. Hey, Jade, can you do me a favor and just grab the clips or anything else valuable that I left on the table? I appreciate it. Hey there, patient people.
Hello.
Appreciate that. You know, I don't know if any of you have ever connected your computer to your phone for an internet connection. So I've been doing that a lot lately because I like working outside, but I could see that that may not be the best solution. So here I am. Okay, I'm going to start that over, right? If you're ahead of me, just watch, pick up some details, and then join in when we're at the stage that you're at. Okay. All right, I started with the rectangle tool, and I recommended working without a stroke, even though that's not required. The first trick, of course, was the wide arrow. Now, the wide arrow is the only arrow tool that lets you change shapes. So the black arrow wouldn't help us at this stage, so I get the wide arrow. To move a path, though, I do have to click an anchor, and this way it knows I don't mean to move the whole object, right? If I see all the anchors turn blue, that's bad. I'll have to click one. Then I could move the anchors by hand, but it's easier to take this whole path and move it up. Right? Everything is parallel. Now what I'm going to want is a similar shape, but I want them to touch. So the fastest way to pull that off is to copy this one, thinking in Illustrator. So I'm going to hold down Option or Alt, press and drag. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to line them up before I let go of the mouse or the touchpad. Now, the magic is going to start when I bring this edge back down. But all of its anchors are blue. So again, I'll click an anchor, which lets me grab the path and bring it back down. Now, what we're going to do is add windows. But I think what I'd like to do before we do that is have you guys choose some colors where one side has light and the other side's going to represent shadow. So for right now, I'm going to treat this as though the sun is coming this way, hitting this side of the building. So I'm going to choose a lighter color for that side. So I'm going to select it with either the white arrow or the black one. I'm going to bring the fill box to the front, and I'm going to give it a lighter color. Give me a second here. So I'm going to ask you to take a moment to choose a color, and I'll keep it simple. If your swatch has disappeared, I would recommend that you go to the window menu and get them out again. And you could pick a color. I'm going to make a green building this time, so I'm going to choose a light green for this side. I'm going to choose a darker green for the other side. I don't want strokes. I could see I have some, so I'm going to get rid of those. All right, now about the window. So this is mostly me pushing the value of the white arrow on you, right? I could have drawn that, right? It's just very, very fast this way. I'd like you to get the rectangle tool again. Now we're going to make windows for this side, but what I'd ask you to do is put the rectangle just outside that wall and size it so that you could imagine two next to each other, because we're going to have 2 rows of 2, you know, a bunch of rows, I should say, but one column coming down, window, 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 and then another column. So I'm going to make it kind of small. Using the white arrow, I'd like for you to change its shape. Now, I don't believe moving the anchors are the best way to do it. I'm going to click an anchor just to activate the shape, but I'm going to take the whole side up, and I'm going to copy the angle that I already see on the building. Now, once you like it, you probably want to switch to the black arrow so you can move it on the building. If you want to make any changes, you can get that white arrow and perfect it.
So when I moved my window onto my building, there are these like dotted lines where the window just was.
Really? It
Yes.
left dotted lines there?
It left multiple vertical dotted lines.
Huh. Hey, do you want to quickly screen share with me? Have you done that before?
Sure.
All right. So I'm going to stop my
Oh,
sharing.
it says that screen sharing is disabled.
Can you try it again? Because
Okay.
I was screen sharing, so that might have been the problem. How about now?
It says host disabled attendee screen
Oh, really?
sharing.
All right, give me a second. It's just Zoom stuff. Give me 1 minute there. Huh. I don't have it turned off. That's the only problem. So. Sorry, guys. You know, I don't know why it's disabled on your end. It's enabled on mine. So I'm going to have to look into it. But I would say this. There's nothing that Illustrator could do that would leave stuff behind. It's got to be a problem with the computer. So what I'd suggest to you is just kind of ride it through the class today. But then after class, shut everything down. Just shut the computer down completely.
Okay.
That sounds like a RAM scrambling kind of thing that happens. And when you restart a computer completely, shut it down and restart it, it clears out the RAM.
Okay.
Because I've seen that kind of behavior now and then, and it's screen residue.
So, okay.
And I'll have to see what's up with the screen sharing because we are going to need that down the road. All right. So what I want to ask you to do once you've got one window that you're fairly happy with is select it, hold down Option, and make yourself a copy. Now, if you want multiple copies for a whole row, you could do that with the Option key. They're a little out of perspective, but I'm going to let
Your
that
screen's not shared.
Oh, my screen's not shared. Okay, let me get back to that. There we go. Okay. So once you've got one window, I would probably switch back to the black arrow so you don't accidentally change its shape, right? And Option drag to make another window. And if you feel like making 3, you can. I want to show you something very interesting about this program. But I would need you to have one row of windows to join me on the next step. So we're juggling things. We're using the white arrow for any fairly elaborate shape. But then we're moving back to the black arrow, which is a little more reliable for option dragging copies or for moving stuff around. I want to show you something about making the other rows of windows. I would probably do it like this. I would select that top row by clicking once, holding down Shift until I have all 3 windows. And then I'd hold down Option and drag straight down. I could hold down Option again and drag straight down. Now that's if you want to do it manually. I'm going to show you an even faster way, but I want to repeat that last one. If you want to copy them, at the very least, select the whole row. So remember, we were using Shift to help with that. Shift, Shift. So Shift was the one that multiple selected, but Option was the one that let me make copies. So I just used Shift, I got what I want, and now I can hold down Option and drag it down. You notice a little guide is showing up, helping me keep this straight. Now I could continue doing it manually, but I will tell you one thing though. If you dragged it perfectly straight, look what you can do. Watch my screen. Now, you gotta be wondering how I just did that, right? Now, this is thinking in Illustrator, right? So I'm gonna back up a bunch so I can make my point. There is nothing wrong with dragging it down yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you do it perfectly, in other words, I see that there's this line there telling me that I'm going straight, I could use a trick that's called repeat transform. Now, the shortcut is Command D. Command D means repeat what I just did. The problem with it is if you did it wrong, like this, Command D is going to repeat that wrong decision. right? So Command D is finicky. If I'm going to use it at all, I just want to make sure that the first set is the right distance, the right angle, then just use Command D for the others. I want to show you something pretty wild about this that I think you're going to like. If you've got one building, that's all you need to make a very fast city, right? So I'm going to stick my neck out a little bit because I want you all to get a taste of why the program is as famous as it is, and how does it really differ from Photoshop. I'm going to make a city out of this, right? So if you've got one building, you're ready to join me on the next step. If you don't, you might want to stop just for a moment and watch so you can get these ideas. See, I'm going to select that building, the whole building, and I'm going to option drag copies of it. But I want freedom in terms of one urgent thing just happened. This just first day of school is always kind of weird, really. Embarrassing. Okay. All right. If I group the object, now this is a subject that's going to come back in a couple of weeks, right? We're just going to get a taste today as a big introduction. If I group the object, I don't have to worry about moving its pieces around by accident, right? I won't lose a few windows when I drag it around. It's going to act like a unit. So if your building's ready, let's make a group out of it, and then we can make the city very easily. All right. So you can either Command A to select all, or you could do it like this. I wouldn't go shift clicking, right? Because it looks like there's over 20 objects there. That's going to be hard. So either Command A, or here's the other road. The black arrow selects anything it touches. So if it touches some stuff, it'll only select that stuff. But if you're careful and drag over the whole object, you'll select the whole object. I'd like you to select your whole object now. So either press and drag over the whole thing, or just do Command A. All right. Command G is another good shortcut. Now, it does live under the menus because it's a big feature. Object menu group. Thing is, you use it a lot and the shortcut's easy to remember. G for group, right? So I'm going to do it with the shortcut, not the menu. Command G. If you click off of it, I'd like you to click off of it to deselect. Please be sure you're in the black arrow. And then I want to show you some stuff. Oh my God, my EasyJ just keeps getting harder. I thought I was so good just moving to a different location, and guess what just happened now? I left the cord for the computer outside. All right, I got to finish this. Let's make a city, and then I get my cord. We'll take a break. All right, I got 2 minutes to make a city. All right, with the black arrow, one click gets the whole building now. The white arrow is still going to select parts, so be careful. The black arrow only selects the whole group. So I'm going to make sure I'm in the black arrow. Now watch this. Knowing that Illustrator starts in the back and then puts things in front, I'm going to make the backmost buildings first, so watch me. With my black arrow, I'm making it small, bringing it to the top, and I'm option dragging to give it another building. And I'm option dragging now to make another building, but I'm going to make this one wider and a little different looking. I can go back later, work with color, but right now I don't want it. Then I'm going to do buildings in front of these. Hold down option, I'm going to make one here. It's getting closer to me, so I'm going to use some perspective, making it a little larger. And anywhere I want a building, but I'm going from back to front. But anywhere I want a building, I'm making decisions as I go about what I think will keep the arrangement interesting. Maybe a tall, skinny one. They're all grouped. So every time I option drag one, I'm pulling a copy off elsewhere. I keep changing my mind about where I want the buildings. Oh, I like it. Maybe I'll make it like one building if they touch. That's kind of cool. So I'm making a couple of points right now that here we've got stacks of buildings, and I could change my mind about the order. We're going to do one trick with that in a minute, but it helps to think like the program thinks. You know, since each building I make is in front of the last one, I'm thinking in perspective. I'm making the smallest ones in the distance. I option drag as I come forward. I make them a little bigger, do say a row, option drag, get all the way to the foreground where the biggest buildings are. Is this working for you guys? So you can imagine if you took the time and really babied that first building, right? You know, some fancy details on the building and maybe, you know, people in the windows, little silhouettes, drapes, that type of thing. I want to do one quick thing though, before I go, oh no, I got 3% battery. That's not quick enough. Let's take a break. It's 5:20. The class officially ends at 6. So it's a weird time for a break. Your teacher got overexcited. I apologize. Let's just take a 5-minute break and I'll let everybody out a bit early today, right? Take a 5-minute break, come back. I want to do a last thing and we'll call it a day. Please check your clocks. It's 5:20. We're going to start at 5:25. All right? Okay, I think we're back in business. How do your cities look? All right?
I'm gonna see your screen.
You know, I really don't understand why we couldn't screen share before, and I don't want to take time at the end of the class to look up and see what happens. I've actually, Liana, is that a real bird? Your mic's off, but
Yeah, that was sunshine.
sunshine. You know, I got to admit, one of the things that I love about these remote classes is these little moments of real people's real lives that are like the cold labs at school. It's like, at some point, you're all going to have to meet my cat. She's shy, so she's not coming today. The bird doesn't have to meet my cat, but everybody else. All right. So I want to just say something about the sky behind your buildings, because it'll help bring a lot of the subjects from today together. So I want to actually have you join me putting a sky back there. So I'd like you to find your way back to Illustrator. And I want to ask you to get the rectangle tool. Well, actually, before you do that, be sure that nothing's selected, right? Because anything selected, you may accidentally change its color or something like that. You know, if you're not thinking about it, you know, that could happen, right? So I'm going to undo that.
Just so you know, you're not screen sharing.
Oh, good. No, I did not know. I really should know. Okay. All right. So in Illustrator, make sure that nothing is selected. And that basically means any of the arrow tools will work, but just click off, as I like to say, on nothing. So nothing selected. I'd like you to switch to the rectangle tool and pick a color that you'd like to use for the sky. Remember, you could change the color later, so it doesn't have to be your final choice. So right now you got the rectangle tool, you picked a fill color for it. Now here's the way you would typically do it. You drag that rectangle over the entire page, knowing that it's going to hide the buildings, right? Because if we know the whole page is going to be colored by the time we're done, we can move things around and there won't be surprising gaps. That's the all over sky. Now the problem is, of course, it has to be moved back. If we use Command left bracket, we're going to go one building at a time. Now, that's interesting in itself because each building is like 20 objects. But because they're grouped, going back by stages with Command left bracket is going behind one group at a time. And you might remember this trick from earlier today when we were using Command or Control with the bracket keys. Remember, they're next to the letter P. Some of you remember the shortcut to go all the way. You add Shift, Command Shift left bracket, and there's the sky all the way in the background. So I'm going to move a couple things around, and I've got my simple illustration taken care of. I want to say just a couple words about the city experiment that we just made. You might notice I have stuff sticking off the page down here, and that doesn't bother me at all because when I print or if I make a JPEG for the internet, it's going to cut that stuff off automatically. This version has a feature under the View menu, which is called Trim View. View menu, Trim View. People have been waiting for that in Illustrator for years. Old versions didn't have it. So, Corinne, you may be excited about that since I know you've used it in the past. This is only a few months. That's Trim View.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
That's they've been
Yeah.
a long time. But other than that, I'm going to go to the top option, View using GPU. And actually, you know, that's I'm just going to turn off Trim View is what I'm going to do. Does anybody have any questions? I know that we did a lot in a short amount of time, but it's just like a warm up. I may repeat something similar to it next week just to get us back to this place. Folks, there is one last thing I wanted to cover today. And I want to say something to you all. You know, the challenge in my Illustrator class is we're going to be doing cool stuff all the time. I always have some kind of exercise that I can't wait to share with you. with the theme of introducing either tools or techniques you're going to need for your own imagination to work. But what happens, because you're a bunch of creative people, is you might fall in love with something that you brought to a level I didn't expect, and then I lose you. You know, you're out there, there's birds flying by the buildings, and there's Spider-Man's climbing the building, and you know, God knows what else is going on. So if you're in that place right now, you could save that document and work on it after class. But right now I need you to do something else. So to be fair, I'm not going to have you delete it all. I'm going to have you open another document with me. So this is going to be a short little exercise. I just want to get a taste of it with you. All right. Can everybody do File menu, New? Now it's going to offer you the same size that we just used, and that's perfect. So you did, you're in Illustrator, you did File menu, New, and you're just going to click the blue Create button because that current size is just fine. Now you might notice you've got two tabs open in Illustrator right now. You can go to the other tab for the city, and this tab's just a blank page. That in itself is pretty cool. So you could work on multiple things. What I need for you to do next is I need for you to get the Ellipse tool again. And I am going to want a perfect ellipse. So you need to get the Ellipse tool, but I'm going to ask you to hold down Shift, which will tell it to be a perfect circle. Now, why am I doing something in the toward the end of the class? I just want us to get a taste of curves today. So curves are going to take us weeks to master. I want to be very honest. The city routine is because I knew everybody could do it for sure. So it's a definite, you know, welcome sign to what this program can do. Curves are much harder, so I want to get a little bit going with the curves. All right, before you do anything though, if you like, you can pick some colors for yourself. And I'm just going to go with some simple colors right now. And I'm not even concerning myself with the stroke, really, just the fill. Folks, is everybody ready for one last but very important thing? All right, please switch to the white arrow. Now, you know that if you click off, it deselects an object. Please do that. Now, what I'd like for you to do this time with the white arrow is I want you to click right on the edge of your circle. And something new happens. Not only do the anchors show up, and that did work with a rectangle, but these weird little antennas stick out. What I'd like for you to do now is go to the opposite side, click on a different edge. And you'll notice the antennas show up over there. So if you click on it like a clock, somewhere where 2 o'clock would be, you'll see these arrows. But if you go down here, somewhere between 3 and 6 o'clock, you'll see arrows here. Basically, you're choosing a quarter of the way around of the circle, and it's giving you some tools to work with that quarter. All right, I'd like for everybody to get to this quarter here. Yeah, right there. Okay, what are these? Now, the anchors can still be moved, but I'm okay with the way they were. I want to focus on just these two handles. All right, guys, take this outside of the handle and drag it very, very long. Then take the same handle and change its angle. Then play with it. But I want to point out, the two things you're looking for are length and angle. Length and angle. And while you're playing, keep an ear on what I'm saying. A short handle is a shallow curve. The longer the handle, the deeper the curve. So a mountain, you're going to drag that way up there, right? If it's just subtle, then it's very short. So half of the decision is about length of the handle. This is how you control curves in a vector program. By the way, almost every program has copied this. Even Photoshop has these features now, and video programs, and even audio programs uses it for a different purpose. But all of these curves. Now, if you go to the other handle that's available, you'll see it also has the same choices. length, and angle. So the lowdown is, to work on a curve, you use both the handles beside it until the curve in the middle is perfect. If you want to try a different side, go to the opposite side of your object and click an anchor. You kind of know the rules already, right? If I choose this one, this curve, this handle, and this one, control it. One end has a controller and the other end has a controller. And I could make it a steeper curve by working with both of those. I could make it wider by pointing them further out. This is why you can get perfect shapes in this program. And at some point, you can have shapes of your own and a vision of what they should look like. So the rules of it is when working on a curve, you have a few choices. And I want to show you what those choices are as the last way of doing this. Could you please delete your object? Click inside of it and press delete. I want a circle again. If you want a perfect circle, hold down Shift. Otherwise, do it by eye. I want to make a quick heart, and then we're going to leave. So I'm talking about the heart from Valentine's Day, not the biological heart, which would take a lot longer to draw. So let's get the white arrow. All right. Now, I want to add something that I didn't show you yet. If you click one edge of it, you know, remember, I have them all selected, so I have to click outside. That's always true. If you want to change the shape, you can't have all the anchors blue. You click outside and start again. If I click this edge, I could work here. You already saw this edge. But what happens if you click an anchor? Could everybody join me and click the top anchor? Now this is a little weird. Last time we clicked between anchors, right on the path. This time we didn't do that. There's 4 anchors on this curve, on this circle. We click the top one up at midnight. Now here's where it gets weird. If you click an anchor and not the path in between, look at the weird behavior that acts like a seesaw when I move a handle. If one side goes up, the other side goes down. Right? So that's pretty complicated. But I don't want that because we want to make a heart. So you could Command Z. I hope a lot of you have tried Command Z. So if you make a mistake, Command Z or Control Z, you could do it a few times to go backwards. Let's get back to here. What I want next is this top of the heart, you know, that looks like a curvy letter M. So that basically means if I drag this up, I have to stop the other one from going down. So here's how you do it. This is called breaking the seesaw. So first you find your handle, then you hold down Option or Alt, and you take the one handle up by itself. You just broke the seesaw, so you don't need Option again, or Alt. You go to the other side and simply pull that up. I'm on my way to an apple, but I'm going to do it again. Only the white arrow can do this. With the white arrow, I click the top anchor. To break the seesaw, you hold down Option or Alt. Then let go of the mouse, let go of Option. You can just do the other side with no keys at all. I'm going to show you the bottom of the heart. Now, the bottom of the heart needs a point. So even though it's a different shape I'm after, I still don't want the seesaw, right? The seesaw is good for certain perfect curved objects that are curved on both sides, like a wave, but this isn't like that. So to make a point, I have to break the seesaw. I'm going to hold down Option. This time I'm going to take the handle up. And since I broke the seesaw, I don't need Option again. I just come here. Now I'm going to finish this off and then do it fast, right? So people could see. The heart doesn't look great, and it's not the sides. I know some people already move the sides because they always do that in the labs. That's not really the problem. The problem is this heart has a massive forehead. From here to the top, it's too big. I think I'm just going to stretch down the bottom. Look at this. The anchor, pull it down. Still don't like it. Guess I'll take this, pull it down. Whoa. There it goes. Nice. Now, if you missed that, I'm going to get back to where I was a moment ago. This is where I left off. So it's not all about the curves. Sometimes it's about the anchor. I'm taking this anchor and this one, and I'm going to lower them both. So my point really isn't to teach us how to make hearts. It's about why people choose these tools for perfect curves. So I could do something like this. I feel like these two lumps are pointed out. So I'm going to bring them in. And that made it even better. So there's all this precision available. And I never even touched the anchors on the side. All right. I am going to do the 3-minute version of this. If anyone does want to watch it, it will be on YouTube by tomorrow. You could watch the last half hour of class. But right now I'm going to do a quick one. So I'm going to delete this and make myself a circle. The first step was to get the white arrow and choose this anchor point. Since I'm not choosing the middle parts of these paths, I have to break this seesaw up here. So I hold down Option, and I do just that. I make one side, and I let go of Option, and I just do the other side by I. I'm going to come back and perfect it later. I'm going to leave it be. I go to the bottom next. Again, I break the seesaw, so I'm going to need Option or Alt. Here I go. And I take it up. This one doesn't need Option. The rest is by I. I really believe you don't need these sides, so I'm not going to mess with them. I'm going to take this anchor down, get a nicer looking top, and then I'm going to stretch this part a bit too. And there I have it. So, guys, I am going to stop screen sharing because I promised to let everyone out a little bit early, and I have a couple quick things I need to say and show you. So I shouldn't have made that promise, but I'm going to do my best to keep it. So, actually, I'm not going to stop the screen sharing. I want to show you something. Folks, I would like to say that one thing your teacher needs to do better is give you a proper break smack in the middle of the class. So about 4:30, something like that next week. And I want to do that diligently. So you can take a real break, come back with renewed energy. You guys did great today, and I hope that no one feels shocked by anything we just did. It's a repetition type of art form. Take some just repetition and you'll get the hang of it. I will review everything that we did in Illustrator anyway next week and add new important stuff. So each week I'll review the highlights of the prior week and add brand new material every single week of the entire semester. So it's going to be a meaty class. Right? I want to talk to you about something, and really I want to talk to you about Project 1, right? So have a look at the handout with me first. All right, so some of these tools I'm going to move to next week, but I want to point out something here. Project 1. Now, before we look at these samples, and this is a live link, by the way, so you'll be able to check these out on your own. I want to say a few things. So the Project 1 is called Letter Illustrations. And what I'd like for you to do is I'd like you to think like a children's book. When you were little, you got a children's book with the letters of the alphabet. And A was almost always apple, you know, which is really kind of boring. You know, so if I was going to do a children's book, I don't think I'm going to do apple. B, what, a B usually? Bzz, kind of B? I don't know. I'd want to come up with something else. Now you're going to do 3. Now the thing is, we're adults though, right? So that means basically you could make the 3 letters meaningful by having them be interrelated words. Now, we're going to make illustrations for all 3. Now, I want to show you some samples which will help me take this conversation a little further. So I'm on my own handout, and I'm clicking this link right here. I'm going to open it up separately so I can get back to the handout. Let's give this a second to load. It's a large file, so depending on your internet connection, it may take a little while. So this is a PDF file which uses some special program called Adobe Acrobat that runs in the browser. I'm going to click this little button here so to shrink it down. At home, you could always use the view menu to back up. But let's point this out. This artist chose 3 fruit. So this is the first point that I want to make. Make the words relevant to each other, right? Person made a simple decision. I'm going to work with fruit. Now, next week, I'm going to teach you more how to make shapes like this by introducing other drawing tools. You know, could we do it with the oval tool and the white arrow? Actually, yes, right? But that might not be the best way. This has a freehand kind of style, and I'm going to be going over some freehand tools next week. But the apricot says A for apricot, wrote out the whole word, featured that letter, and drew an apricot. Kiwi similarly, grapefruit. But I want you to notice how thought out this is. Notice how the color of the word apricot is the same color as the peel of the apricot, you know, which is, you know, a major part of that fruit. With the kiwi, it's the inside you think about, or this artist did, and use that green for the word kiwi. Even put those weird little sticky things on the word, which I never noticed before. Pretty cool. The word grapefruit, so we're gonna have to do some typography for this to work, is using that grapefruit, pink grapefruit color. And they even added the leaves. Very professional. I want to show you a different artist's approach. This artist went with bugs, butterfly, ladybug, honeybee. Did some very crafty and difficult things that I hadn't even taught at that point. Notice how the butterflies cut off on the edge of this circle, which is rather nice. Corinne, be nice. She could peek. I don't mind. I recognize those gestures because I have a daughter, you know. No, but anyway. That's it for them. All right. Anyway, the butterfly's doing that cool thing. The ladybug similarly is being cut off. So that artist must have figured out how to do on their own because I teach it later in the semester. It's interesting how behind the text though, they went with a very simple 2-color drawing that worked with the butterfly. They're famous for flowers, right? So there is that beautiful simple thing behind the text. Ladybug did something similar. And the honeybee, the really intelligent use of the honeycomb. I'm not really sure if I like these white stripes though, if they really help or not, but it is an A project. This person went with an all over look. This person went with boxes, which I like. I'm just not sure about the white stripes. This person has a bolder look. So I think the stripes actually work better for this artist. I'm not saying this is better art. I'm just saying that this worked better. Bag, shoe, necklace. Very interesting category, right? She didn't go with fruit, didn't go with bugs, went with fashion. Just chose 3 elements out of fashion. The student might have been heading in that direction, as people often do at FIT. Beautiful use of the necklace, and if we zoomed in on it, you'd see how simple it actually is. I want to show you this one, which in some ways is my favorite, in other ways isn't. I'm not really sure what ice cream and the beach and books have to do with each other, right? That holds it back a little bit. And if you're imagining someone sitting on the beach eating ice cream while holding a book, that's great. And I think that's what this artist would have needed. But the design is excellent. I just love how the ice cream area breaks out into the page more. You know, and the lollipop sticks out, it actually overlaps 2 rectangles. So it bridges the shapes. It's really the most interesting part of it, far more than this area, which is pretty good, by the way. But I just think this area is the most professional. It could have gave us a little extra to work with. I gave it an A, even while I think the topic wasn't as tied together as I would like. I want to show you this one just because it's so weird. And this artist was always finding his own voice. It says, things that scare me over here. And I'm going to zoom in a bit. D is for dentist. And look at this freehand, very cartoon style of the dentist room. So unless he's got an incredible memory, he probably got a photograph of a dentist's office and did a cartoon of it, which is a very professional road. And he had D in these kind of tiles on the right. These are things that scare him, right? So here it says L is for locker room. Had bad experiences in the locker room. And here's this funny cartoon of a naked person standing there, and a simple drawing of the locker room. And again, here's a close-up. Notice the hair already says L. I want to tell you something about that in a minute. This is a little gross, so, you know, fair warning. R is for restroom, and doesn't like the public restroom, and this is the way he sees it. And yeah, it says R, and yucky stuff. You know, the weird thing about this was he didn't want to use the type, the artist. He really wanted it to, this early version looked like this without the text. The class couldn't figure out what he was saying. Everybody saw the D. Most of us missed the L, or that it had anything to do with the locker room. This threw everybody. Nobody knew R was for restroom. So I asked him to put the text in to walk us through it. But all the same, it's imaginative, it's very original. There are changes I would make if we were going to publish it. Mostly, I don't think this vertical black bar is helping this at all. It's separating all the artwork rather dramatically and not giving us anything for it. But I still think it's a top shelf project for project 1. This is a very simple one. I liked it more when I saw it. I liked it a little less today. But I guess I just wanted to make an argument for simplicity. The subject was boots, corset, and gloves. So again, fashion. I do like the artist thinking in just 3 colors like that. It's just so bold, you know, red, black, white, you know, bam. And just sticking with that. I also like how the simple drawing just feels really sure of itself with the font, with the script font for boots, corset, and gloves. It's very, very simple, yet you wouldn't be surprised if you saw this on a poster somewhere, you know, connected with some relevant information. So don't think professional means complex. It really doesn't. It's a certain approach to maturity. Next week, I might have more to show you, more samples. I'd really rather you think for yourselves, though. This is mostly to help me think through the project. So right now, I'm going to focus on this one here, which kind of makes the best arguments for what we're doing. And I just want to apologize because I'm not letting you out early as I meant to, and that means I owe you some minutes. The first day is always the hardest of time. Let's take a quick look at this. By next week, you just want hand-drawn sketches. Even if you have Illustrator experience, I want you to draw it by hand. That basically means get loose, have fun, draw more than one idea. You know, they could be as loose as possible. They're not going to be graded. The sketches are there for you to think. Now, at any point, I might ask you to show them to me, so you have to have them ready by class. I might just ask you to hold them up to the camera, or we might just do some screen sharing once I master that element for us, right? But you have to have them ready. If I'm only asking for 3, I would do 3 sets of 3 totally different ideas. You know, 3 forms of alternative power. You know, 3 types of dog and my favorite desserts. You know, I don't know. You know, whatever, a variety of things so that you could pick. Now, what's going to be graded in the end is how professional does it feel? So just let's get a look at these suggestions. I'm suggesting that you work on 3 separate pages. But now that you saw what the final goal is going to be, 1 page, you might want to include a sketch once you're off the ground. The separate pages are just to help you think. But, you know, eventually you're going to design them as a unit. So how you go about your combinations is largely up to you. I'm suggesting 3 separate pages, 1 for each letter. I suppose if you were going to do that and stick with them, maybe a 4th page would work out the arrangement. But you could think in different orders. I'm not that picky about it. Draw with regular non-digital material, pencils, pens, markers, whatever. You could start in black and white, or you could start thinking in color early, but have enough sketches that you're ready to move into Illustrator by next week. Questions about project 1?
Yes.
Let me hear it.
So since this coming Monday is Labor Day, do we still have class?
Oh, Liana, I could tell you're going to be very valuable to me. All right, guys, let's double check this real quickly. I'm sure that we don't, but I just want to be real official about it. 1 second here. So we are talking about September 7th, right? Yeah, tomorrow's the 1st. All right. Labor Day, college closed. Boo! It's, you know, we're gonna all need a day off, but not yet. That was like a little fast. So I'm not gonna see you for 2 weeks. You got 2 weeks to do the sketches. And as I was trying to suggest earlier, that means class 4 for us is it's a month away. You know, it'll be the 5th week of your other classes. Whoever's closed on Monday will be on the same schedule as me. But you could bet next time I see you, it'll all be mapped out, dates and everything. So right now, your only concern is get those sketches around. If you feel like playing with Illustrator, you can go as far as you like, but I'm definitely gonna walk you by stages through increasingly difficult work. So next week, we'll learn some hand drawing tools, go over more of the white arrow, which is really important, probably also ways to get at better and more varied color. And we'll move through everything you need, including typography. Anybody have any last questions for me about this class, about Project One? No? So how many of you guys had a class before me today? So look, folks, I'm a human, and if I was a sensitive human, I'd double apologize. You so needed a break in my class. So I'm never gonna let that happen again. If you're doing a double, so 2-3 hour classes, I don't even wanna know if you're doing a triple yet. I can't emotionally handle the empathy factor because the triple's a bit far. Some of you are smiling, that means you're doing triples. I'm gonna let you out. So folks, I'll see you all next week. If you need to reach me, the email's on the handout. It's on the syllabus. It's all over the place. Email me. I generally get back to you within 2 days, sometimes less, and never on weekends. I will see you in 2 weeks. All right, it's been a pleasure meeting you all. Oh wait, don't go yet. Take my screenshot. That's attendance. All right, and let me just double check. Yeah, there it is. See you all then. It was nice to meet you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have a wonderful
you.
day.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You too. Hey, look, since it's only a couple people, how are you, Christina? You all right?
Good, doing well. Thank you for thank you for everything. It was wonderful learning with you today.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I'm glad. If you feel that way day one, you're only going to feel more like it.
I'm so excited. See you in 2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.